New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, she's shocked the world with a surprise resignation ahead of the country's upcoming October election. The PM made the emotional announcement earlier today.
And so today I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election and that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February.
Few saw it coming. Jacinda Ardern choking back tears as she announced she'll soon step down as leader.
But I'm not leaving because it was hard. I know what this job takes, and I know that I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice. It's that simple.
Ardern's Labor Party looks to be in trouble in the next election, with polls placing it behind the opposition.
I'm not leaving because I believe we can't win the election, but because I believe we can and will.
While Ardern's popularity may have waned at home, she remained a global superstar. In 2017, she took Labor from an unwinnable position to government in just 3 months and became the world's youngest ever female head of government at age 37. But her popularity was more than symbolic. Ardern led New Zealand through defining moments, most notably the 2019 Christchurch massacre.
You may have chosen us, but we utterly reject and condemn you.
In the wake of the tragedy, Ardern's government immediately banned assault weapons, an action that went hand in hand with a powerful display of empathy.
They will remain with us forever. They are us.
During her time in office, she put New Zealand on a path to net zero, became the first Kiwi PM to march in a pride parade, and swiftly enacted one of the world's boldest and clearest COVID responses.
Please stay home, break the chain and save lives.
Ardern became just the second elected leader to give birth while in office, with daughter Neve accompanying her to the United Nations General Assembly. It was moments like these that fed into Jacinda mania, her global popularity only growing as she introduced local terminology to the world.
I actually have an entire esky of beef with me for you as a gift.
An entire what?
No.
A cooler.
A cooler.
Cooler was apt. Ardern's unflappability went viral in this defining clip, keeping her cool during a mid-interview tremor.
We're just having a bit of an earthquake here, Ryan.
For now, Ardern appears to be looking forward to more stable ground, her speech featuring a promise to both her daughter and partner.
And so to Neve, Mum is looking forward to being there when you start school this year. And to Clark, let's finally get married.
Tova O'Brien is a political journalist and radio host in New Zealand and joins us now. Tova, how much of a shock was this in New Zealand?
Absolute bolt out of the blue. I was in a hospital waiting room at the time, and as soon as the Prime Minister said, watching on my little phone, the stand-up, we were expecting an election date. We thought that was the most excitement we were going to get of the day. As soon as she said, have been reflecting over the summer, everyone just froze. In the room that the Prime Minister was in, I talked to political reporters who were there, everyone grasped each other. I stood up in this hospital waiting room, started shouting at 80-year-old women about the Prime Minister quitting, but it was just an absolute shock, so much so that I'd actually bet a house last year with one of my colleagues that the Prime Minister would not be resigning before the election. She said she wouldn't. I believed her. Boy, I could not have been more wrong, but this was such a surprise.
Oh, do you have a GoFundMe page that we can go to, Tova?
Yeah, I'll be setting that up with immediate effect. To buy the house first, to then give the house to the person who don't have one to lose in the bet.
So is the general perception in New Zealand that this really is a personal decision, or do people think the polls might have had something to do with it?
I think probably a bit of both. You saw the Prime Minister in her press conference. There was very real, very raw emotion, and that comes from a place of genuineness. I think she was being genuine. She didn't have enough fuel in the tank. She couldn't give it her all, and you've got to respect that decision as well, because you can't have the job as Prime Minister unless you're willing and able to give it your absolutely everything. But I think one of the misconceptions about Jacinda Ardern, one of the misconceptions about the Prime Minister is that she's, I think probably because of a lot of the rhetoric around kindness and compassion, which is absolutely part of her style, she's still a political animal. She has been a politician through and through her entire life, basically, and a lot of the decisions that she makes are based on political expediency. She's made big ideological pragmatic decisions based more around trying to get the poll numbers up rather than ideological decisions as the leader, which has seen her kind of lose favour with some in her base. So I think there was probably a bit of both there, but ultimately I think the Prime Minister probably saw the writing on the wall. She is protecting her legacy, but she's made the right call for herself, not necessarily though for her party.
And Tova, you spoke there about popularity. How do you explain to an international audience that, you know, seems to love her why New Zealanders don't?
Yeah, absolutely adores her. And I travelled with the Prime Minister all over the world. I was there at the United Nations General Assembly when she's holding up her new baby, Neve, and the headlines that garnered when she was at Buckingham Palace, fully pregnant. She's kind of done it all in terms of the overseas plaudits. But here in New Zealand, she still had to lead the country. And the country's had a really, 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 really tough time over the last few years in particular. And I think with COVID, super impressive in the early stages. She saved lives. The country was grateful. She was lauded all over the world for that. But that turned as I think a lot of the anxieties and realities of COVID, of the lockdowns, of the restrictions started to set in. We saw the protests at Parliament earlier this year, the Parliament basically on fire. That speaks to how visceral the feeling was about the Prime Minister. And I think because of a lot of that stuff, her policy progress got lost. She wasn't able to properly communicate a lot of the policies that she did try and put into place, so it was kind of a perfect storm. But her leadership, her personal popularity plummeted by half since the 2020 election to date.
So, Tova, what do you think's next? Do you think she could go back to DJing, potentially?
Oh, hard agree. I mean, it's the only option,
Terrific.
isn't it? A lot of speculation about the United Nations, but why go to the United Nations when you can wiggity whack?
Wiggity whack.
So yeah, definitely Jacinda Ardern back on the decks.
She could DJ your going away party at the house you have to give away.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we might need each other at this point because I'm going to be broke. She's probably going to be broke. So everything is up for grabs now. Basically, we don't know who the new leader is. We know that whoever they are, they're not going to have the star power that Jacinda Ardern has, and our elections here in New Zealand are really presidential. It does come down to the leadership, so a lot is going to rest on the shoulders of whoever her successor is. In terms of politics here in New Zealand, this is the kind of thing you guys are a bit more used to. You have leadership changes in the like all the time. This is quite rare for us. This is a big deal.
Well, we've got a busy few months ahead. Tova, thanks for your time.
Thank you guys very much.